Obviously, Herm was very high on you and felt like you would be able to start for a long time here in Kansas City. What were the conversations like in the offseason before you got drafted by the Chiefs?
Um, I knew that the Chiefs were interested, but didn't know to what degree. Um, but it obviously they were not expecting, I think having the conversations like they were with Patrick Mahomes, where they're telling them the plays and all that. But there was obviously an excitement and an expectation coming in, and once again, it obviously didn't play out the way that I thought that it was going to play out, or the way that I wished it would have played out,
Yeah.
at least in the moment. But man, I also can't argue with what that path led me to. There's so many things that I learned in my time there. Herm Edwards is still to this day one of the greatest influencers on my life. Like, man, there's so many Herm stories that one of them was, playing really my first extensive playing time. We were getting beat in Pittsburgh. Sunday night football, man, it's snowing. I'm from Alabama. I've never played in snow before. We're getting just drummed, and fourth quarter comes around, and he's like, "You ready?" And I was like, "I guess." And so he tells me to play. I go run into play, and right there at the very beginning, I think it was the first series. Like, man, I throw this pick six. Might have been my first pass. Like, I throw this pick six, and I come off the field, and I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh, like, how in the world is this happening? Herm's over there, and he's just kind of in his own thoughts. And I'm like, am I going back in, or like what's going on here? And he just said, well, kid, can't get no worse. Go run it again. And like, I use that now though. Like, you know what, man? I would have went and run through a brick wall because that man believed in me enough to put me back in the game. Like, he spoke over me, like, hey man, you messed up. Go make it right. Hey, that ain't who you are. Like, man, go live up to who you are. Man, there's greatness inside of you. Go show everybody else what it is that I see. And man, there's so many of those moments that Herm was a part of. Like, man, just speaking over me very early, like, Brodie, like, I need you to know, like, I don't care like how many Pro Bowls you make, how much money you make, none of that matters. Because at the end of the day, your measurement is going to be in, man, how many lives you affect, not in all those other things. And it was a shift, a mindset shift for me, because from the time I was 11 until the time I got to Kansas City, it was all I dreamed about. It's all I thought about. It's all I wanted. I mean, and in many ways, it became my God. And I got there, and he was able to help me just go, you know what, man, football is incredibly important, but man, what you're going to do in life is more important. And I look now and I just go, man, he was so right. I wished it would have went in a different path, but at the same point, I learned how to be a leader in Kansas City because I didn't know how to lead before I got there, if I'm being completely honest. Because when I was little, I was I was the best athlete, and I could throw the ball the furthest, and I could kick the ball the furthest, and I could make the most shots or whatever it was. So, like, I had a coach tell me, like, "Hey, man, like, you're the leader." I'm like, "Why am I the leader?" He's like, "Because you're the best." I'm like, "Oh, so you lead because you're the best. So everybody's supposed to follow you because you're the best." It's like, so I started my leadership journey that way. Well, then all of a sudden, man, I've become the quarterback. So now I got the title that goes with being the talent, being the best. And then you got to back that up with production. And I was always able to do that for the most part until I got to the NFL and realized all these people are better than me. And then, but man, it wasn't until I got to Kansas City and um, humility is a learned trait, is probably the best way I know how to put it. We signed Matt Castle, and when you sign somebody to that type of money, you quickly realize that you're not competing for a job. You're officially the backup. And it was the first time that I ever had to try to learn to lead without being the best, without having the title, without being able to produce to where people would be willing to follow. What I learned was I was a terrible teammate because I wasn't a leader, because I always put, man, maybe my own self above, maybe my own thoughts above. But I mean, I was concerned about us winning and everybody else, but it wasn't until I became a backup and I put in the same effort, I put in the same work, probably more because I also had to be a scout team quarterback on top of learning everything that it was. And then I'm investing in Matt so he can go out there and be successful on Sunday. And so it was that moment that you go, I'm putting in just as much to where on Sunday somebody else's name is chanted. And now I look at now what I get to do, and man, we got, you know, so many different people that make this place come. I mean, we got a school with 100+ staff. We got an organization with almost 100 staff. We got 700 kids at one location. We got 200 kids at another location. And you just realize now that, man, it was all a part of, man, just this sanctification of leadership, of going, you got to learn to always, one, lead. There's no days off, and you're going to do it so somebody else can be successful. And if I look at my time with the Kansas City Chiefs, and, you know, it's humbling when you don't ever win a football game. I mean, that's a humbling deal. It's humbling when you get knocked out of the game half those times that you even started it. But now that I look at what that journey looked like to get me to the seat to where I now get to lead so many amazing people, it turns out Herm's words were right. Man, what you're doing now, yes, it's important, but man, it's not going to be what defines your life. And I'm grateful for him, and I'm grateful for my time in Kansas City